Did you hear about the Amsterdamer who tried to sell his bike? He couldn't, it was too tired. Ah, Amsterdam, the city of canals, tulips, and oh yes, bicycles. It's said that there are more bikes in Amsterdam than people, that's right. Over 800,000 Amsterdammers and a whopping 1 million bicycles. It's like a modern twist on Noah's Ark. But instead of two of every animal, we have at least one bike for every resident. You know how in some places you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth? Well, in Amsterdam, you're practically born with a bike license. There's a saying that an Amsterdammer learns to ride a bike before they can walk. And honestly, judging by the nimble way they navigate those narrow streets and bridges, I wouldn't doubt it. But it's not all smooth cycling, especially for the uninitiated tourist. Picture this. A hapless visitor, fresh off the plane, sets off on foot to explore the city. He spots a nice, wide red lane. Perfect for pedestrians, he thinks. Little does he know he's just stepped into the city's bustling bike highway. Before he knows it, he's like a deer in the headlights, swept up in a tide of cyclists, all ringing their bells in a symphony of Dutch disapproval. And speaking of disapproval, did you know that Amsterdammers have a unique way of dealing with illegally parked cars? If a car is blocking a bike lane, they don't just call a tow truck. Oh no, they simply lift the car and move it aside. It's like a real-life game of Tetris, but with cars and bikes. So Amsterdam is not just about bikes, it's about a biking culture that's woven into the very fabric of the city. It's a city where two wheels are mightier than four, where the bicycle reigns supreme. So if you ever find yourself in Amsterdam, remember the bikes rule the city. They're like the unofficial kings of the canal. What do you call cheese that isn't yours in Amsterdam? Stolen Gouda. What's the one thing the Dutch may love more than their bicycles? Well, that's right, it's cheese. Now, I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill cheddar or mozzarella. No, the Dutch take their cheese very, very seriously. In fact, they have museums dedicated to cheese. That's right, museums where you can take a Gouda, look at the history of cheese, take part in cheese tastings, and even watch a live demonstration of cheese making. And if that's not enough, you can also visit the cheese markets, where traders in traditional costumes haggle over prices, and huge wheels of cheese are weighed and inspected. And let's not forget about the cheese-themed hotels. Yes, you heard it right. Hotels where you can literally eat, sleep, and dream about cheese. Now, that's what I call a cheesy holiday. Now, the Dutch are known for their wide variety of cheeses. From Gouda to Edam, Maasdam to Leerdammer, the list goes on and on. It's said that a true Dutchman can differentiate between hundreds of cheeses blindfolded. Now, that's a skill worth having. So in Amsterdam, don't you dare get between a Dutchman and his cheese. It's a good way to get into trouble. Scene script. Why don't they play hide and seek in Amsterdam? No one can hide when the buildings are leaning over to peek. Now let's dive into the wacky world of Amsterdam's architecture. You see, gravity appears to have taken a holiday here. The buildings don't just stand, they lean, they lurch, they loom. It's as if they're all trying to eavesdrop on the tourists below, craning their necks, or should we say their gables, for a better look. It's a city where a spirit level is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Picture this. You're trying to capture the perfect holiday snap, but alas, every single shot is off kilter. Is it you? Is it the camera? No, it's just Amsterdam. You see, in this city, the Leaning Tower of Pisa would feel right at home. And then there's the narrowest house in Amsterdam. It's so thin, it's practically two-dimensional. It's just one window wide. You'd have to be a master of the sideways shuffle to live there. It's the sort of place where you can't gain weight because, well, you wouldn't fit back through the front door. But it's all part of the charm. Amsterdam's architecture might be quirky, but it's also one of the city's most endearing features. It's a place where buildings don't just house people, they tell stories, they create character, and they certainly know how to make you laugh. So if you're in Amsterdam, remember to lean in and enjoy the view. The buildings sure do. Why do Amsterdam's canals never get lost? They always follow the river. Now, there's a question to ponder, isn't it? Amsterdam is famous for many things, but it's the city's iconic canals that leave an indelible mark on every visitor's memory. With over 100 kilometers of canals, you could say that Amsterdam is more water than land. It's like Venice, but with less singing and more bicycles. Speaking of bicycles, have you ever wondered what happens when one goes for a swim? Well, every year the city of Amsterdam fishes out around 15,000 bicycles from its canals. That's right, 15,000. That's enough to start a second-hand bike shop on Mars, assuming you can get them there. But bicycles are not the only things found in these waterways. The annual canal cleaning is like a treasure hunt, but instead of gold doubloons and pearl necklaces, it's more about old boots, traffic cones, and the occasional antique sofa. Who knew the canals were such hoarders, right? Now let's talk about the canal boat tours. These delightful little cruises are the perfect way to see the city, but be warned, some of the boat tour guides are more comedians than historians. They'll have you believing that the canals were built by giant Dutch beavers, or that the city's founders were just really bad at playing Tetris. And finally, let's not forget the canal's uncanny sense of direction. It's said that Amsterdam's canals are better navigators than most GPS systems. They've been winding their way through the city for over 4 centuries after all. They've seen it all, from the Golden Age to the invention of the stroopwafel. So folks, that's a little glimpse into the watery world of Amsterdam's canals. These charming waterways are the lifeblood of the city, filled with history, humor, and a fair bit of lost property. So if you're ever feeling lost in Amsterdam, just ask a canal for directions. They seem to know where they're going. Well, we've biked, cheesed, leaned, and floated our way through Amsterdam today. What a ride it's been. Picture this. You'll never look at bikes without thinking of a cheese wheel again, or see a canal without laughing about a building leaning over it. It's like we've been in a jovial dance with the city's quirks. Remember, Amsterdam is like a good joke. The more you explore it, the funnier it gets. So, here's to laughing your way through the city of bikes, cheese, quirky buildings, and chatty canals.